So for today's topic, Jimmy and Vernon will continue with the role play. Jimmy plays the regional manager and Vernon plays the sales leader who reports to Jimmy. They're going to have a discussion on how to engage Vernon's team who have different behavioral traits. Let's see how Jimmy and Vernon go through the Harrison reports to aid in this discussion. So Jimmy and Vernon, you're up.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, hey, thanks everyone. It's great to see everyone. Hi, Vernon, good to see you again.
Hi,
Hey,
Jimmy.
thanks, Vernon, thanks for making up this meeting. I think it was really good that you called me for a meeting and you sent me an email and just telling where that some of the issues you want to have a chat with me on.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing. I think right now over the last few months we've been having skip levels one-on-one chat with the team. Everything seems fine, at least on an individual basis. Obviously things are not perfect, right? But what I'm sensing is that the team is not gelling as well. I can't quite put a handle on it. So I'm thinking that over the last year or so, you've been sort of guiding me, providing me with some insights. And so I want to tap your feedback. I want to tap your experience on how I can, view this maybe in another lens. I think I'm missing something. I think that while on a one-to-one basis where I do the skip levels, things seem to be okay, but I'm sensing that things are not quite that okay. I mean, it's not bad, but I'm just trying to say how we can best, optimize team, right? So that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah, Vernon, I really respect you. You're now moved on to a different role, right? A regional role, and now you've got a team under you, right? Your sales manager, Andy, and he's running a team down there. And I'm glad you brought this up because sometimes as we talked about engagement, we can get a sense that maybe things are not going so right. Yeah. Engagement is funny that way. It is a feeling kind of thing. You don't sometimes visually, but you kind of feel it, right? It is important you pick this up. I'm glad you got this so quick because if not, having a sales team, right, but then if they don't engage well, if you feel things are not right, they are just going to disintegrate really fast.
Exactly. My point is, and you rightly said that, my point is I'm trying to find the X factor, right, that will, push the team for discretionary effort, because it's all about that. These are challenging times. I want to be able to push the right levers and make sure that they are completely engaged and they can, exert that discretionary effort. Very hard. So that's why I'm reaching out to you. Please help.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes also, who do we work with first, right? Do we work with the one that is seen as not talking? Do we work with someone who seems to be talking a lot and appoint him the so-called Tuan Rumah, the leader of the pack? And that's all that, right? We've looked at the engagement reports, Vernon. We've looked at individual reports then.
Right.
So I was just thinking when you sent me this, maybe we can look at this differently.
Yeah, because like you said, I don't want to jump in and look at what and look at what I think would be those people who are not performing, and the usual suspects. Because I think that there should be a better lens at looking at this.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm thinking today is the engagement report was fantastic. You look at the engagement ones and drivers, the individual perspective. Right. But now, what happens when you bring everyone together? What's the dynamics, right? Each of them have a very unique profile. We've seen their paradox profile also. We've seen their individual traits and definitions. So we're now putting them together and as a team. The question now is, do they gel? Yeah.
Because I've only seen the paradox individually. Yeah. Okay. Good point. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah. And do they energize each other in the right way, or are they energizing people in the wrong way? And that could have an impact to engagement. So I think that's where we start on. Now, as you said, a different lens. What can I see now? Yeah. So the whole crux is, how do you engage your team? Different team members, they're different personality-wise, behaviors, and different needs, right? So what do? With Harrison assessments, the paradox report is fantastic already on its own individually. But now, what happens when you put all your results in the paradox graph, what we call the team paradox? You're going to start to see all them in this very nice
Never thought about it
patterns
that way.
and very interesting kind of situations. And
Okay.
so this is what the whole team paradox lens maybe could give you a whole different appreciation of what's going on.
Okay.
Make sense?
Good. Good. Yes, I'm open to new things. I just want to make sure that this team is optimized. I want them to
Yeah.
have that discretionary effort. Basically, I just want a happy performing team. Right?
Don't we all, right? It is important. I think that's what we call happiness surveys, always being done everywhere, right? What does that mean, and how do you get down to the details of that happiness survey? That's the importance of this conversation. So the team paradox, you've got that copy. When you sent me an email, I quickly put this together with HR. We stitched this together and put all your team members in one. So here it is. Of course, there are 12 graphs, 12 paradoxes, and it's a lot to talk about. We can go on for quite a few hours, but I'd like us to at least also start somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I looked at it, I thought that the first thing we could start on would be one of those paradoxes, what we call decision making. How does your team make decision? As a sales team, there's so much to do, right, Vernon? Sales plan, sales activities, projections. You need to know your market, what's happening in the economy, and then, therefore, how do you make your next step?
Right. Okay.
So the decision approach paradox is really interesting. It talks about the vertical axis, the action-oriented trait called analytical. You have your supportive trait called the intuitive trait. I mean, these two traits are paradoxical in nature, right? Opposite from each other, but one without the other could potentially cause an issue. So let's just kind of focus on this. Decision approach is your tendency to how you make decision. Are you more analytical, data, facts driven, or are you more intuitive, gut feel? That's the approach. So you can see the team here.
To interrupt, but the red dot is the sales leader in the team, right?
Yes, that's Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's Andy on ground, and the rest are all his team members, right? So very interesting. So we put all their profiles together. Here you go. Now you can see all of them. They operate differently, isn't it?
I can see.
So let's talk about Andy.
I've always known him to be very analytical, right? Which is what I like about him. I think when you have someone who is reporting to you, someone who is managing a whole team and a whole product line, I think it's great because I always get facts. I always get the numbers, and it always helps me in any sort of decision making. Basically, do I proceed, do I stop, and all that. Okay.
I mean, spot on. Spot on. This is exactly what you've just kind of talked about, Andy. I mean, you liked the way he worked. He's facts-driven, data-driven. He's given you information that's very data approach, and that's nice. But you can imagine is someone who doesn't understand him.
Right.
I mean, I could kind of see like, why is he asking so much info from me? Why is he asking so much data from me? I've gone back to him 3 times, 4 times, and he's still asking for information. That possibly can be frustrating, isn't it, Vernon?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this chart, I mean, 4 of them probably will feel a lot of pain, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you look at Edward. Edward is fantastic. He's pretty much, in fact, he's even more what we call laser logical, a little bit more higher in the analytical trait. And they probably worked really well, Edward, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Frank
Now,
himself is interesting. Frank has a very strong balance, very analytical and also intuitive. So, what we call him, he operates well in both worlds. Yeah. He's a guy that uses his gut feel, but his gut feel is also based on a lot of factors. Yeah. So a couple of these work well they will work well, Andy. Not an issue, right?
I
Not an
see.
issue at
Okay.
all.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No, now it's starting to connect the dots for me because when I have my one-on-one chats with them, skip levels,
Yeah.
I find that about half the team seems to gel with Andy, and the rest
Yeah.
are like kind of lukewarm, So
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was just pressure from the boss, not really knowing that this could be one of the pain points. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I can almost imagine now. I mean, Andy will probably work really well with Edward or Frank. I mean,
Yes.
they think alike, they seem alike. So naturally, we as people, right? And when you think alike, you kind of click a little bit more, and you probably feel that a little bit more engaged. And engaging them is easier, right? It's all through data. But let's talk about Conrad.
Right. Wow.
Right down there. I mean, Conrad is low in his analytical trait, only at a 3, and very much more intuitive, even with, Howard.
Mm.
Um, Moderate in analytical, but higher in intuitive. So these are your few two, the two that kind of invoke, if I could say, their gut feel, is
Yeah.
from their experience. I've seen this
Right.
before. This is how you
Right.
should
Right.
do it.
Right.
Come on and forget about it, Andy. Too much data. You don't need it. I know this is how it's going to work. So they're probably going to go that.
I see.
Um,
No, but
the
I
frustration, I
find
don't
that.
know who is going
Yeah.
to be more upset. Maybe Andy's going to be more upset. You're not giving me any data.
No, but I think for them, I'm thinking from the side of the team, right? When your boss keeps asking you for more and more data, and you keep going back and forth, get back and forth, and you're
Mm,
managing clients, I need to get this done. Is it approved or not? No, 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 no. This is what my boss has said. We need more information and all that. So yeah, I can imagine because I
yeah.
think being in sales, you want things to move faster because you've got your stakeholders, you've got your clients, right? Please.
I mean,
Uh,
Vernon, you've been in that role. You
yeah,
were sitting
exactly,
in Andy's role. You know how
exactly,
hard it is on the ground. There's
exactly.
always that balance between boss, company, and clients, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay,
The
okay.
tension, I think possibly that possible tension with Conrad and Andy
Mm-hmm.
could really create that dissatisfaction.
Right,
Maybe I just don't want to see Andy all the time. Conrad will
right,
probably feel that way. Each time I see
right,
him is always about data or
right.
information or
Or lack of
proof
data, maybe.
or, or,
Maybe
or,
lack of data. Yeah,
lack or maybe the data is not valid or I don't trust your data.
right. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Um, in itself, I mean, you have that. I wonder how would Edward and Frank also look towards Conrad and Howard, right?
Hmm. Because I
Yeah.
know that Conrad and Howard, when I talk to them, they use a lot of words like I believe, I feel, you know.
Mm,
So yeah, you brought up a
mm,
good point. So now it's not only about them with Andy, their boss, but actually their colleagues as well, right? Maybe when you're planning, when you're brainstorming, a few of them really want a lot more data. The other one, the few others, a bit more intuitive, based on their past experience, their gut
yeah.
feel. Okay,
Yeah, just quickly before I also want to show you another sample of another
okay,
paradox.
okay.
Look at Jared G.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm.
I,
Oh wow.
something's not happening with Jared.
Right.
Seems like it's
Low analytical.
a little bit disengaged. He's
Right.
not how he makes decision. Whether it is being analytical towards facts or through his experience seems a bit removed off.
Right.
May not be so interested.
Right.
Whatever goes for him, probably he's kind of like whatever you say, I'll go with this way. Whatever he says, I'll go with this way. Um,
So now
Andy
I'm
could probably,
now I'm wondering how the team looks at him. Hmm.
mm, mm.
Right. They
Or
quite sideline
even
him already.
from his own perspective, he could feel like he's the outlier. He feels like he doesn't even understand Frank. He doesn't understand Conrad. He doesn't understand anyone. So
he
when
may
you kind
actually
of have
feel
that,
that he doesn't fit in. Okay,
absolutely,
okay, okay.
he's not part of. Maybe he doesn't know how decisions are made. He doesn't
Right,
feel like he fits in either way.
right. Okay,
Um, I would be worried for him because I can see him performing. He's proven to have brought in some amazing accounts on his own.
hmm,
But could he be the one that's disengaged at the moment?
possibly.
I'm
Okay,
on my own, and you guys are on your own. So I'll
right.
do what I need to
Like,
do to meet my KPIs.
yeah, it's like me against the team, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
interesting, right? Now that you kind of
Okay,
put all them together,
okay,
suddenly is we are seeing this from a whole different perspective. Just quickly, also,
okay,
something else has come up also in a different paradox that I've
right.
seen, especially for
Okay,
Andy. Yeah.
okay,
This is the delegation paradox. How, in terms of it's not giving work away, is how decisions are made and
right,
who has a sense of authority and responsibility, and how you make decisions. Is it collaborative with a team, right?
right, right.
Um,
Oh, wow, Andy is,
and
wow.
Andy is interesting. I mean, he's
Hmm,
somewhat moderate in terms of decision-making authority and taking
okay,
responsibility.
right,
He does collaborate with everyone. He does, he does bring everyone in. Hey, I need to make a decision. I can assume from here. He's involving everyone.
right.
Um, Whether he takes a stand on it finally, whether he finally comes down to a decision point, I don't know. He's somewhat in between what we call the quadrant differs decision.
Right, right.
He works with people, but sometimes he may not seem to be making a decision. And what bothers me is earlier on we saw him asking for a lot
Analytical.
of data. Yeah,
Hmm.
right. So he
So
keeps
you
asking.
ask and ask and ask, and it's given, and you can't make up your mind.
Right, and each time you go back,
Okay.
no, I need more info. Can you get me more info?
Right.
Assuming I'm on the team, this potentially, Vernon, can cause a bit of frustration. How many more times do I have to go back to get more worldwide benchmarks, global, regional data for you?
No, I
And
can
yet each
imagine.
time I
I mean,
ask,
yeah, I can imagine if you keep asking me, I keep giving you, and you can't make decisions. I can't. Sometimes I can't help but think maybe you don't trust me.
yeah,
Right? Hmm.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Um, Derek is interesting, and he will make the decision. He's responsible, and
Okay.
sometimes may not be so collaborative. And I'm not sure why. Is it
Right.
because he is frustrated? He'll just decide and get on with the decision and not wait
Right.
anymore. Too
Right.
much is being asked.
Right.
I said, I'll just make my decision. I'll just fly with it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because you know what, this is some of the things that came up, couple of things that came up when I have my skip level one-on-one with them.
Mm.
They talked about how how things move a bit slowly to for them.
Yeah.
They feel that things should move a bit faster,
Right.
because it's certainly impacting how they respond to their clients, right? So I you know what,
Absolutely.
I made a mistake. I actually thought it was a process thing.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
actually told them maybe we should look at our process. Maybe our processes have not kept up. But you know
Yeah.
what? Maybe it's not.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's just Andy not making up his mind. Maybe a
Mm.
bit more analytical.
Yeah.
I think day
Yeah.
to day this probably drives them crazy.
Right, right. Okay. So, I mean, this is great findings for us, Vernon. We saw their engagement and we know what they wanted individually. But now when we stack them up, even just for these
Right,
two paradoxes,
right,
it's just really interesting how they operate. And we know that how people operate could
right,
potentially cause either greater friendship, greater trust, or even
right,
greater distrust or frustrations, right? And we know
right,
all these leads up to a greater impact, positive or negative, on engagement levels. So
right.
now that we see this, and I want to also then, we can go on, but I'd like to quickly
Hmm.
decide on what we should do next is really you take some time looking at some of these, maybe start with these two paradoxes also.
Yeah.
If I could suggest that, I think for you to have a chat with Andy first quickly, I think it's to bring to his awareness that
Yeah.
maybe
I think, yeah.
engaging people differently is important. And through our traits that sometimes unintendedly, we're causing issues down there.
No, very good point because he reports
Yeah,
directly to me. I get updates,
yeah,
performance updates, and all that. And I've always said, you know what, I like that you are so thorough. You're very analytical. You always give me viewpoints from not only one viewpoint but a couple of viewpoints, several scenarios, right?
yeah,
So I'm only encouraging this. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I need to be aware of that as well. But yeah, but good point. I know that Andy knows his own report, but when put into this perspective and where his team stands, he probably doesn't realize that it's probably causing some
yeah.
unnecessary
Mm,
pain,
mm,
unnecessary tension. And when you
mm.
hit someone's pocket and you can't make decision, salespeople, can't close deals, it impacts their pocket, the money, the commissions, and all that. I'm sure it's frustrating. So yeah, I think the first step would be I think I'll look
Yeah,
at the entire report. I mean, there are 10
yeah,
other paradoxes, right? But I think the first step
yeah.
to do is to have that time with Andy, you know.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Mm.
I mean,
Oh wow.
really good.
Okay.
Vernon, go ahead and do that. Look,
Yes.
you know how to reach me, and if
Yes.
you need any other insights, I'm happy to even sit in with you. So I think that's a good start. Let's look at that, and for you to get onto Andy quickly, I think that'll be great.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks, Jimmy, because I never saw it from this perspective. I always saw individual team, but I never saw that how when you put all their different
Yeah,
behaviors together, how it could possibly cause some tension, unnecessary tension.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Okay,
Okay.
well, Vernon,
All right.
thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Jimmy.
you. Thanks for your time.
Thank
Speak
you.
to you soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Catch up again soon, yeah?
Hey, thank you, Jimmy and Vernon. We have some time for Q&A, so please feel free to ask away in the chat room.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Vernon,
Mm.
that is such an interesting exercise. I think what we're trying to do here is to um, really tell people that we appreciate the challenges in managing a team, right?
Exactly.
Everyone has different traits. It's never one way of addressing people. Sometimes we forget, we think that because I'm like that, why can't you be like this? And that's
Yeah.
when a lot of unintended consequences, frustrations that we cause to the team. We are seen as leaders who don't care, who don't realize, who don't even see my strengths, and you always pick on my
Hmm.
weaknesses per se, right, Wilden?
No, you're right, rightly so. I think I just want to share that, remember that telco company that we worked with just before MCO?
Yeah,
That was it. They had the engagement survey, right? Everyone was performing, even the CFO, actually the finance team, even the
yeah.
CFO was saying individually everyone's performing and all that, but she could sense that something is not right. Certain things could be done better. People
Mm,
seem to every now and then have outbursts. So yeah, so when we did that team paradox, we ran a team dynamics workshop for them. Great insights, right? I think it was a very powerful session. So I
yeah,
think it saw the whole strength and collective gaps of the team coming out. So
right,
it's
right.
seeing engagement with a totally different twist.
Yeah, I remember where the feedback was there was one particular team member that they saw that team member was always the hard one, that the one
Yeah,
that's always fighting. But
yeah,
when they saw the traits together,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was amazing. It was a revelation that why
Yeah,
she's like that. She
yeah.
was really
I,
trying to
I,
help more than anything else.
Yeah, I can still remember she said, "You always think that I'm the one who speaks up because you know why? None of you speak out, so I always have to jump in. And because of that, you look at me very negatively." Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
All right.
Great. Thanks. So
Okay.
I think it is telling also, I mean, our guests who are also using Harrison, or if even if you're not, I think these are day-to-day challenges, right?
Yeah.
Um, with a simple tool like this, it just gives you a whole different lens and insight to, hey, how can I go in with a very neutral perspective and
Right.
breach conversations? Like in this case, for you to breach with Andy, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let us see if we've got questions from from the team.
Right. I see.
Okay. There's a question from Amy.
Yeah.
Should I focus on the employee that has the most out of balance traits in the paradox graph?
Oh, okay. That's a good question actually. I mean, we saw earlier where Gerard was falling low in analytical, low in intuitive, and he was just so low. I mean, he seems like the first victim. I could say, Vernon, right? The first
Right.
victim, and let's go
Yes.
pinpoint on him, and therefore I should
Exactly.
work on him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, the answer is yes and no. Of course, I think that's a quick one. Possibly that is going to be someone who may need attention quite immediately. Obviously, in this case of making decisions, how they approach decisions, the question should be what's really causing this, and what's holding him back, and what's ultimately the impact to performance, right? In this case of making sales decisions.
Right. I think yes. I think do zoom in because it's a way of helping him improve. But he does not necessarily. This does not necessarily mean that within the team context he should be the first one to be focused on, but rather how he is being perceived. Because relationships are two ways, right? How a team functions. It's a function of how do you utilize your collective strengths and kind of realize some of the outliers out there and how you can help each
Mm.
other. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think focus on someone if you see almost immediate like this, but I think equal attention is also given to everyone else. I think the intent of this is give us a better appreciation and insights to all of this, right? Okay, good.
Okay. We have a
Okay.
question from Zachary.
Okay.
Okay. Some individuals would fear having their own paradox graph results revealed in this approach of a team paradox graph display. This may cause him anxiety of being seen as weak and therefore could impact their engagement levels. If you are the manager or leader, how would you go about allaying the anxiety in your team?
You have a
I
Kit Kat.
think I think you have to start. I think you have to start with the end in mind. Perfect example. The example that I shared that we actually had this session with the finance team of this telco company. The CFO actually thought, what can I do with the team? And when we said that look at team paradox, she was very interested. But one of the things that I actually focused on was like, what, when we do this, you have to be very authentic. You have to be very clear about what will happen as well, which means that we will show your results of your team. She was very open to this because she said that the
Mm,
only way to build a high performance team is to be authentic with each other, right? So which
yeah,
means that even as a leader, I will know I'm not perfect, I'm not strong in every area. So therefore I need to understand where you can help me. So
yeah,
she came from that perspective, and
mm,
I applaud her because it's almost like
yeah,
standing there without your clothes on, everyone can see you.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
there is power in that, but you have to start with the end in mind. What are you trying to achieve,
yeah.
right? And if you can get that right, the results are incredible.
For me, I think the whole message or position of humility as a leader, you know that you are as great as who your team members are, and it's a collective strength of everyone that makes it so powerful. Once I think that's clear, and also I think another message is, Vernon, I think in our experiences,
Right,
there's never a weak, strong profile. It's
right,
how collectively as a team they make up the best and a synergy to drive the
right,
greatest results. And I think once all these are positioned,
right.
that ultimately and hopefully it should allay some of those fears of being seen as weak, strong versus someone else. Okay, all
Exactly.
right.
Okay. Mm.
Uh,
Well, Sharon,
we
next
have a,
one.
yeah, we have a question from Jeremy. There are many engagement tools out there that uses group averages or percentage. What is the benefit of the approach?
Oh, okay.
Vernon,
The approach is
you
nice.
came you came from that field. I mean, I've been there. I mean,
Right.
you've seen it.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts? I mean, what are some of these tools doing that give us greater
Yeah.
averages?
The other, yeah, they most of the tools out there, yes, rightly so, give an average. Gallup minimum of 5. Concentric previously Aon, and Towers Watson, you need a minimum of 10. That's great to have a point. If if you have really, really large teams, great. And if you are CHRO trying to drive group initiatives, great. But a lot of times when you're trying to drive group initiatives across, it's almost like a one size fit all, right? You will probably touch most of them, but some of them you will miss because you have not addressed their concerns. And what if these concerns are actually people who are key, your talent, your high performers? So I'm not saying it's not great. I'm just saying that there are possible gaps,
Yeah,
unintended
absolutely.
gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see, like, you go buy a suit, right, off the rack, or a shirt off the rack. I mean, small, medium, large. Generally, it would fit generally. But sometimes, like, I wish my sleeve was a little bit longer. I wish
Yeah.
was on the sides a little bit more
Exactly.
tapered. But when you get it off the shelf, of course, you get more of a broader base selection. There's nothing wrong with that, because it gives you a quick overview, gets sense. The thing with Harrison assessments, whichever report you cut, it gives you still have the ability to look at a big picture, but the power is in that individual results that allows you to appreciate that uniqueness of each person.
So while we have our engagement and retention analysis, which is at individual level, very powerful, you can address my concerns, Jimmy's concerns, and all that. Now, but when you put together that team paradox report that we shared just now, you've another lens over it, right? Now, have you ever thought about the team dynamics that are involved, right? So it gives
Absolutely.
you a very multi-dimensional perspective of how to better drive engagement in your team.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks. From Saiful,
Yes.
is it a bad sign for those who are unbalanced, sitting only on one end of the paradox? Like in case of Gerard was sitting on the bottom left-hand corner, and usually when someone is there, I mean, they seem to be really low in both traits, right? From our perspective, absolutely, which means that they do not or would not possess traits that possibly could help them perform well, could help them excel in their performance. So that's a possibility, and this then warrants that whole conversation, right, Vernon? We need to dive in. Then it takes us to that whole discussion on, are they in the right role? Are they sitting in a role where it requires those traits? Are those traits behavior so important? Those competence so important?
So good question. It allows then the manager to help them with the development, right? Which they probably were not aware of.
That is fantastic, isn't it? It's the greatest point. Sometimes we say, I mean, coming from HR too, we say, look at Vernon. He's just not performing. He's not doing. He's not talking. He's not engaging. He's not part of anything. I think we should just, what we usually do, put him on PIP and hopefully to get the person out. I say it's always the employee's fault, right? That's where the burden is. But I think with this kind of capability from Harrison as an assessment tool, it just gives you an insight. Hang on, wait a minute. What's going on? And it allows you to make that better decision, actions to be taken before we jump into it. I mean, that's really important. Yeah.
Good point.
Okay, all right. Hey, and we're reaching at 12:20 plus. What's anything else? I hope everyone in this webinar has really gained something from us, as what we're trying to show is how you are actually tackling day-to-day issues, leveraging on something as powerful as Harrison, as simple as Harrison, actually. I'm happy. We're happy to entertain one or two more questions if there is any. No? All right. If not, hey guys, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this Friday, and happy Good Friday for those of you celebrating.
Yeah, we
Yes.
hope you enjoyed the session. Trying to give you a very different perspective on engagement, on that especially will impact your day-to-day work. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Jimmy and
Great.
Vernon.
Thanks, everyone.
All
Have
right,
a
thank
great
you.
day.
So
Again.
join us
Thanks,
next
bye.
week. Okay,
All right,
bye.
all right.
Bye.